Islanders report to the fire pit immediately. The New York Islanders get the first pick in tonight's NHL Draft, kicking off in L.A., 7 o'clock Eastern. It's the first of 7 rounds, and it'll be headlined most likely by Matthew Schaefer. He expects to hear his name called by those Islanders. By the way, they got the top spot via lottery. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Meanwhile, the San Jose Sharks drafting in the top 4 for the 3rd consecutive season. Is this the year they finally get out of the rebuild mode? Only time will tell. And that time starts right now as we welcome in our Stanley Cup champion, Pierre McGuire. Pierre, good to see you as always. The biggest headline coming out of the NHL Draft Lottery was that the Islanders jumped all the way up to that #1 spot. Only a 3.5% chance, and now they get the right to draft defenseman Matthew Schaefer. What can you tell us about his game, and why should Islanders fans be excited?
Because he's a guy that can take charge of a game, Haley, and it's great to visit with you. The biggest thing about him, he's got great length. He's almost 6'2", almost about 190 pounds now. When he fills out, he's obviously going to play a lot bigger, a lot heavier. He only played 17 games this year for the Erie Otters in the Ontario Hockey League, but he did have 24 points in those 17 games. Broke his collarbone at the World Junior in Ottawa this year, representing Team Canada. He's slick with the puck. He can run a power play. He can eat up minutes. He can be a matchup guy. He really is one of the true franchise-type players that's in this draft. There are not a lot of them. Matthew Schaefer is one of them. The Islanders should take him. I don't think they'll trade the pick, and if they do take them, this really helps them a lot long-term.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about where he's coming from. If he does, in fact, go #1, he becomes the 2nd Erie Otter to be drafted at #1. We know the other guy is a famous guy by the name of Connor McDavid in 2015, so we'll keep our eye on Schaefer there. Meanwhile, Pierre, sitting at 3rd in the draft, the Blackhawks own a top 3 pick. For the 3rd straight season, they've picked first 2 years ago, 2nd last year. They had a lot of excitement surrounding Connor Bedard when they took him at that #1 spot, and yet here we are again talking about what pieces they need in order to be a factor here. So what are those pieces needed for them to rebuild around Bedard?
I think what people aren't understanding is they've done a real good job with some of their depth picks, especially on defense. Now, Artem Lashinov was a 2nd overall pick last year. He's on their roster right now. So is Alex Vlasic, who was drafted a few years ago out of Boston University. Kevin Korchinski, who was a 1st-round pick a couple of years ago, actually 3 years ago. So when you look at it, they're really starting to put together a roster in Chicago that's going to be very capable of playing. I also look at, Sasha Boisvert, who's transferring from the University of North Dakota and going to Boston University. They've had a great amount of success with players out of Boston University lately, with Vlasic, Ryan Green, and Drew Comesso, a goaltender. So very exciting for the Chicago Blackhawks right now. I'll be shocked, Haley. I'll be shocked if he's on the board if they don't take Michael Misa. Now, San Jose, there are a lot of rumors San Jose may go with Anton Frundell, who's a Swede out of Djurgården, Sweden. And then if they do, then Chicago has to go with Michael Misa. And if they don't, I'll be absolutely shocked.
All right, that was going to be my follow. How shocked would you be? And you say you will be shocked if Misa moves there. All right, let's talk about the Bruins. They sit 7th overall, Pierre. This is their highest selection since drafting #2 overall back in 2010. They've been committed to a reset, not a rebuild. Got to be very specific in the language there. So they bring in former Bruin Marco Sturm as the head coach. What's the offseason plan in Boston, Pierre, starting with that pick at #7?
Well, the offseason plan is going to be to add as many NHL players as possible. They've got a hole on the right side on defense. They've got some holes up front. Let's remember, it was not that long ago that David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron retired, so they got a little bit of a hole down the middle. Zdeno Chara did not finish his career in Ottawa or in Boston. He just became a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame, but he was such a great leader there for 14 seasons. They've got holes all over their roster. The biggest thing with Boston at 7, they got to be hoping that somebody like Caleb Desnoyers, who is right now rated around 5 or 6 in the draft, depending on whose list you believe, Haley, they got to hope that Caleb Desnoyers is available. He's a guy that can be like Jonathan Toews was for Chicago, like Patrice Bergeron was for the Boston Bruins. He's that kind of a player. I'm not going to say he's as good as either one of them. Not fair to the young man, but he's a tremendous talent out of Moncton in the Quebec Major Junior League, and I think if he does fall to 7, I'd be shocked if the Bruins didn't take him.
All right, so we talked about those picks inside the top 10 with 7 there for the Bruins. Let's go outside the top 10, Pierre. Give us your sleepers, maybe. What comes after that 10th pick for you?
There's a player that plays for Sault Ste. Marie. He's from Elmira, Ontario. He's a farm kid. He's tough. He's mean. He plays with a whole lot of vim, vigor, and vitality, Haley. His name is Brady Martin. I don't know if he's going to go past 10, but if he does, somebody's getting a steal. This guy's great on faceoffs. He's an elite penalty killer. He can finish plays off with unbelievable passion. He plays in a hockey hotbed in northwestern Ontario in Sault Ste. Marie, right on the U.S. border. I can tell you right now, he's slowly but surely crept up the draft list. He's farmer strong. He's a whole lot of nasty. He's playing in the NHL. He may not get you a ton of points every year in the NHL, but he helps your team win all the time. He's a tremendous player, huge character guy, comes from a great family. If you get him after the 10th pick, you got a winner.
All right, the NHL Draft getting underway tonight from LA. And Pierre, we know you'll be all over it as it continues into the weekend. Appreciate the time. Always good to see you, my friend. Here's
awesome.
a look.
Great visiting with you, Amy.
All right. Oh, we love Pierre. Here's a look at the notable dates coming up within the National Hockey League here. Of course, we talked about the draft. It continues through the weekend, and then free agency opening up June 1st at noon. And then before you know it, we'll be crowning a Stanley Cup champion all over again. Well, the good old days in the Big Easy have been long gone for a few seasons now, but maybe a change of leadership will spark some change in New Orleans. We're tackling the biggest challenges for Kellen Moore and the Saints next.